BeastNet is brought to you by James Safety Services in partnership with OCR Buddy and OCR Strong. Here we discuss all things OCR and fitness related. Welcome to BeastNet.
Hey everybody, it's Mike with BeastNet here, and today I've got with me Jono from Hawaii. So let them know a little bit about who you are. I mean, I know you because we've hung out together when I've been over there for Hawaii races and all that, but let the listeners know who you are.
Hey, aloha. Yeah, Jono Blodgett out here from Hawaii. Appreciate you having me on here. Love what you guys are doing. So yeah, really excited to be on. But I guess, yeah, a little bit about myself. I first started doing Spartan back in 2014, I think was when I first had to go around, and, probably kind of like most people, just started off doing it just as fun, something to do on a weekend, and would kind of dress up and then just get the beer after, and then slowly started kind of enjoying myself and figured, okay, let's see what I can do with this, and started training a little harder. And now it's just kind of snowballed into something I love and do every single year.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like for a lot. Like for me, I mean, most people know mine. I started in Montana in 15, and it was just on a whim. Just went out and did a race. Of course, I didn't research, so I did a beast to start it with. Which,
perfect.
Typical for what I do. I just, sure, that sounds great, let's go do it. And then later on, like, wait, what is this? What am I doing?
What am I doing now? Yeah. Why did I sign up for that?
Yeah. So I've done, my wife cracks me up because there's been a couple races like I've done where literally I like sign up, I'm like, this sounds great, let's do it. And then literally she's like driving me there and I'm looking up the website, like, what is this race all about? Like, she's like, you're doing it in like an hour. What do you mean? What is it about? And I'm like, oh, I knew it was going to be outside in the woods and I needed all this stuff and I don't know what else I'm doing. So,
but that's the great thing about this sport. I mean, is like, yeah, you throw yourself into something that you know is going to be just an ass kicker, but like it's tough and you hate yourself during it. And it's, but after you're like, where do I sign up again? Like, let's go. You just get that adrenaline going and you accomplish, so much more than you think you could have. And just inspires you to want to keep going.
Oh, it does. And I mean, and it's so much fun too, because the community is so amazing.
Yeah.
You get to know everyone. And I mean, you see it so much. And I mean, I'll be honest, one of my favorite teams is Ohana. I mean, every time I'm in Hawaii, I mean, it's a get together. We have so much fun. It's like I tell everyone, I love my Ohana. So if I had any chance, if I thought I could afford it, I would move to Hawaii just to hang out with you people. But
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah. And Richard and myself and a lot of the other Ohana, like we've built it up over the years. This past year was definitely one of the biggest years we had as far as kind of people coming out for training. And so it's been great just seeing it build over the years just to what it's become. We always love to see all the beasts now. You guys come out, and other people from Australia have become friends, and all over, like from the Philippines and Japan and a lot of the West Coast. So it's been great.
Oh yeah, and it's amazing, and it's so neat. Like I said, just to hang out with everyone and have so much fun and enjoy ourselves. And I mean, that's part of what we do with this. I mean, it's also. It's an addiction, but it's an addiction that's good for us in many ways. It helps us get healthier. Like it's helped me, lose a bunch of weight and get healthy again and all that, and kind of get on a different cycle of, making sure I try and stay healthy, and do healthy, good things,
Yeah. I mean, it gives you something to look forward to in the year rather than just, I got Christmas or something where I'm just going to drink a bunch of alcohol and eat a bunch of terrible food. Instead, you're like, no, I got a race in January, so I'm gonna stay on top of it, stick to my training, and it gives people something else to look forward to, which is what we need nowadays.
We definitely do. I mean, I know right now, like a lot of people know, like right now I'm kind of in a down cycle. I told her when I needed, for 2.5 years I pushed my body to the brink. It's like I needed just that like little bit of downtime. I mean, I'm still doing my daily 1 mile a day, stuff like that, keeping myself active, but I'm not pushing hard for at least probably a couple more weeks, and then I think I'm going to start getting right back into it. So I think
and that's the big thing that I think it's like you said, it's an addiction
Mhm.
is this sport. And so people just think, okay, year round, I got to be pushing myself to the absolute limit. And I tell people all the time, it's like, just like there's seasons in the year as far as fall and summer and things, you need to have seasons within your training cycles too. And
Mhm.
so yes, look ahead and use those races for, okay, I'm going to train hard for this one, but then once it's done, like take that time just to let your mind and body fully recover. And I mean that's a healthy part of it too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's one of the big comments I had with the talk that I had with my trainer, Megan, not too long ago. Was just like, she's like, I've been telling you for a while to take a break. She's like, you were pushing hard for a long
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
and finally I'm just like, my body's just like, hello, you need to take a break. I mean, I think a lot of it is the full trifecta weekend in Seattle. And
Yeah.
then Hawaii was the very next weekend.
Right
So I didn't,
after.
like it was two trifecta weekends in a row. And
And then
then
didn't you
two,
have an Ironman like a couple
uh-huh,
weeks after?
and I did actually, I did a triathlon 2 weeks after Hawaii,
Yeah,
and
the
then
triathlon.
did
Yeah.
an Ironman 2 weeks after that.
Oh my
So
God.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just wrecked myself.
Yeah. So you
And
deserve a little break right
yeah.
now. Yeah.
And then in the Ironman, I mean, I what a lot most of the listeners know, they've heard this. I wrecked my bike in the Ironman.
Oh,
So I wasn't even able to finish. I finished the bike, but because of damage to the bike, I couldn't keep up the speed.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was only able to keep for the first like 20 miles, I was doing about 18 to 19 miles an hour. So I was going pretty good. And then
Yeah.
after the wreck, I couldn't get above 12.
Oh,
So
jeez.
for 30 miles, I just couldn't get above like 12. So by the time I finished, I was 6 minutes too late to go for the run.
Oh, bummer, man.
So I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, it sucks, but it's like, okay, I know what I need to work on. I know what caused the crash wasn't, it was my mistake. So
Hmm.
I made a mistake, and it was, something basically because I'm cheap. If I had fixed or replaced my pedals like I knew I needed to, I would have been able to unclip quick enough and not
Yeah.
crashed. So,
Crash.
and I couldn't unclip fast enough because my clips, they're stripped, so I can't loosen them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're too
But no,
tight,
I
and
mean
I know
that,
they are.
but that says a lot about you and the type of community this is. Like there'd be some people out there who may have tried and then they failed and then they just automatically give up kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's where you show like kind of where, your grit and perseverance. You're like, okay, well, yeah, that one didn't go quite as planned, but okay, I know what I need to do next year to get better. And so that's the great thing about it is people are always trying to learn and get better and not just be complacent in where they're at. So
And that's what we have to do is we get,
yeah.
especially with this, working out like we do and the exercise, we have to figure out how to just get better. We can't just stop. And that was me, it's like I wrecked, I had an incident, everything went bad, but I can't stop. That doesn't mean I
Yeah.
quit. That's like,
Yeah.
okay, I sat down with my trainer, like, a week or so afterwards, after my brain had, processed everything, and talked to her and said, okay, this is what happened. And then we sat down and made a plan of like, okay, next year, the big push is to finish the Ironman, not just finish it, but crush it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like we have to look at like, what races do I really need to just kind of push off, and not try and be as race heavy next year, be more
Yeah.
training
Yeah.
heavy
Just
and
use the
work
training.
towards the Ironman. And my biggest thing was too, is I focused just on the swimming, running, and biking, which is what I'm going to do on the Ironman. But as a trainer, I still need to lift. I still need
Yep.
to do all the other parts. And that's what I really skimped on this year,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't,
Yeah.
because I really didn't start talking to Megan until close to, almost the time. And it was too late to really get into
Too
some of that
late.
stuff.
Yeah.
So if I had been focusing less focused on those three disciplines and said, okay, if I lift, if I do all this other stuff, it's going to build the muscle and make it so that I'm not going to get injured as easy, and also deal with other issues where I'm just like, my brain, of course, not being a trainer, I'm just like, well, if I just run, bike, and swim, that's what I got to do,
Yeah.
right?
I'll be good. Yeah.
I'll be good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would
Well,
have been able to finish it if I didn't crash, but at the same time, it really made me step back and think, okay, what can I do to make this better next year? And then it's like, hey, probably do the correct training.
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I try to remind people too about the Spartan race and obstacle course races is people get so focused on the obstacles because they don't want to have to do burpees, of course. And so you're just training nonstop on obstacles, and then they forget, like, oh, I need to be running. Like there's a lot of running in between. Like, it's still a running trail race, and so many people get so focused, and then they get out there and you're like, oh yeah, no, I wasn't expecting all these hills and running. And so I'm like, yeah, that's still a big part of it. So
it's funny because that's what reminds me, when I lost all the weight, went from like, when I was 310, and then the first race I did at like 180. I remember that on one of the races because I ran constantly, but I didn't do the lifting.
Yeah.
So I was having issues with some of the obstacles, and there was a guy that kept just tearing right to the obstacles, and then he'd take off, and then all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, I'm whizzing by him on the trail, and then all of a sudden, and it was just so funny. And he's like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "You've got the obstacles down. I've got the running down. We both missed one spot on this,
Yeah.
And it's definitely you gotta exercise all of it. And a lot of us get too, and I know it, I get hyper focused on one thing, like, I gotta do this, and you gotta look at the whole body.
Well-rounded big picture. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I know you do a lot of training in Hawaii. You're the main one. Every time it's in Hawaii, you gotta train with, gotta go train with Jono. And I'm unfortunately not been over there for any of the trainings. Every time I'm there, it's like, I get there either right after or right before the training. So what do you do? We've talked a little bit about what you tell your people when you're training them and stuff like that, but what do you suggest for most of getting ready for Spartan and all that kind of stuff? It's kind of like we were talking about, the most well-rounded, do everything, not just focus on one discipline.
Yeah. I mean, we try, well, number one, I do all the trainings outside. I try to get people, especially here in Hawaii, that the heat is one of the biggest factors, and humidity and just dehydration. So we don't do any of our trainings in a air conditioned gym. It's all outside, and where you're going to be exposed to the elements. And there's some days where it's, hot, sun is beaming down, and then there's other days where we're getting rained on and it's muddy and slippery. And that's the same thing you're going to get out on the course. There's different terrain that you're going to have to deal with. And so that's one of the biggest factors, is just getting people outside and seeing how their body deals with that, the different elements. And then, we'll do some strength exercises first, whether that be kind of some lunges and pull-ups. And then, usually I'll incorporate just a full little circuit. So it might be like a little mini sprint, where we have this big park and there's a little hill. And so we'll set up, bucket carries and sandbag carries. And then you do a lap around the park with the hill. And so you're incorporating the run side of it. And then, you get into a nice little rhythm on your run. And then all of a sudden, boom, you hit, a bear crawl, and that throws off your whole entire rhythm, getting into an awkward position on the ground, or picking up the sandbag and having to do a strength maneuver, and then trying to get back into the run and that rhythm again after your heartbeat is just jacked up. And so it's just teaching people how to transition from that endurance side to a strength maneuver to, just getting down on the ground to, things that we don't do as adults anymore. And so it's just, learning all those things again. Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, that's one thing I noticed when I first started doing it, because I got so used to, when I was bigger and still doing the races, I just kind of, moseyed my way through them, got through an obstacle, did it, moseyed my way through. And then when I lost all the weight, I'm like, I actually want to run competitive. And when I did the first one, I can just remember, not being ready for that sudden break, where all of a sudden you're running. I was used to running, half marathons, just straight through, no break. I had my breathing down. I knew how to do it. But then all of a sudden, now I got to stop and I got to lift an Atlas ball and carry it, or I got to stop and I got to climb over something. And then all of a sudden, after I'm done with that, like you said, my heart rate's gone up, and my breathing, trying to get my breathing back under control. And that was the hardest thing to do, is getting used to that sudden run, then stop and do something difficult, and then start running again. And that's where I started doing a lot of stuff, like the battle mile, stuff like that with my friend Brian, where it was a lot of that, where it was a lot of run with something for a while and then stop and do push-ups or stop and do
Yep.
burpees. And,
Yep.
we did one that, it's the death race, which we won about battle mile.
Yeah.
So I'm not supposed to say the distance, but everyone knows it already. But you run for a certain amount and then you stop every mile and do 10 push-ups, 10 burpees, and like 10 squats, and then start running again. So doing those started getting me back into that, remembering how to try and control the breathing. Because some people know and some don't. I have asthma. So if my breathing starts to go wacko, sometimes it's hard to get it back.
It throws you off even more. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, that was one of the kind of throughout my running career. I've always been into athletics and things, but when I first started doing Spartan and researching more, it was kind of learning like the running mechanics on how to kind of get your body to be more efficient on the run. And so that helped me progress a little bit more. And then it was kind of dialing in my nutrition, and so that I wasn't going to bonk during the race. So then I started figuring that out, and then it came down to the breathing, and getting that all under control is really what's helped me progress even more. And so now that's pushed me to, I've become a breath coach with Oxygen Advantage, and so it's really helped me understand like physiologically what's going on in the body, so like, okay, my heart rate is super high, like I just ran up a hill, my CO2 levels are jacked up, so I need to try and exhale a little bit harder, a little bit longer to off gas this CO2. And so just understanding what's going on and with the body and the breathing has been huge.
Yeah, and that is always one of the tough ones. I still have issues with that because of like the asthma is really getting understanding the breathing.
Asthma.
But I know that once I lose it, so I've had to learn really quickly how to get it back, and that's
how to get it back.
The hardest one has been doing triathlons, because with the bike and with the run, I know how to do it. I know how to calm my body down and get the breathing back.
Yep.
When you're in the water, that's a whole other animal.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Whole nother. And when I did the Ironman, that's always been my biggest worry, is the swim. And on this one, I had the mental, I guess, wherewithal to think about it. And I'm going, and I was having problems for like the first probably 200 yards or so. And I was just, my breathing was wrong. I couldn't get it. And finally, I'm like, I'm just going to swim over to a kayak.
Yeah.
Because I have kayaks and I can't move forward with it, but I can stop for a minute and get a breath. And I'm like, I'm going to stop for 30 seconds, get my breath back, get it under control, and then go.
Yeah.
And it was like for almost I would say it was probably a little farther than 200. It was probably about the first like 500 yards. I was averaging like 3 minutes and 40 seconds per 100 meters. And then after I stopped, took the breathing for the next, all of a sudden I went down to like 210.
Oh, perfect.
Because all of a sudden I got the breathing under control. I could put my face in the water, do everything the way I needed to. And it's just getting that understanding of how to cool down and keep yourself calm. And it gets different at different altitudes. That was like the first thing I noticed when I went to Hawaii. And that humidity just destroyed me.
The heat already, your heart rate is going to be at least 20 beats higher just off of the heat alone. So that's going to send out your breathing even more. And so it's wild just to see how the different environments can affect you like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and I found that the year that I did my best was last year. And I think it was partly because we were there for a week and a half before I ran. Where normally I'm only there for like 4 days. I always try to make sure I'm there for a couple of days to try and acclimate, but really it takes your body, I mean, it's one of those things I teach, because I teach first aid and everything, and heat, exhaustion, it takes 2 weeks for a body to get acclimated to weather. So I mean, I think that's what it was a week and a half, so I was more acclimated to the heat, and I was running every day. I was in Hawaii the last time I went out and ran a 5K every single day. I was there up before the race just to get my body used to that running and acclimated to it. I was going, and I was in Maui for the first week, so had beautiful beach right next to our condo.
Perfect.
And I would just go run along the beach for a 5K every day just to get myself acclimated. So all of a sudden when it came to the run, I wasn't like where this year. I still did fine this year, but it was still just all of a sudden it was like I could tell the heat was getting to me.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, I just got back from Greece for the Trifecta World Championships, and yeah, I went out there 2 weeks ahead of time just because I know I'm like, one, Greece, Sparta and Hawaii is a 12-hour difference. It's literally like night versus day. So I knew that the jet lag and the travel was just going to take it out of me. So I wanted to be like, okay, I'm going to get there 2 weeks ahead of time. We had a killer Airbnb right in Kalamata on the beach, and I was able just to relax. We were getting in some runs in the mountains, some swims in the ocean, and just fully let myself kind of acclimate to that climate and that environment. And yeah, people are always like, why didn't you go do the race first and then so you could celebrate and party after? But I was like, no, I mean, this was an important event, so I wanted to make sure I was there ahead of time and make sure the body was ready.
Yeah. And I've seen many athletes go to like a race like that where it's away from where they are. They don't go early enough. They're not acclimated.
Yeah.
And they just get destroyed,
Yeah.
And where that's one of those things where you're smart, get there 2 weeks ahead, get your body acclimated, get everything going, and all that. So before we talk Greece, I wanted to talk Hawaii. So tell me how Hawaii went. So I was there for part of it, but
as far as how I did?
Yeah.
So the first day of the Beasts, I mean, it's hot, as you know.
Yes.
And so one of the guys that I helped train with, and he's just a badass up and coming guy, Cole Raven, who it was me and oh man, I'm not gonna forget his name. Another guy from California that was in first place, and it was kind of all of us three, and I actually run a little hot, so the humidity and things always affects me more so. So I was doing well up until about mile 10, and it just started to really drag me down a lot. And Cole was just a machine, and he passed me on the sled drag and never looked back. And then that knocked me down to third place for that. And then right at the end, if you remember, the Herc hoist was the last obstacle, and it was just brutal here in Hawaii. They said the sandbag, I mean, the weights were all the same as normal, but I don't know if they were,
they seem
a little heavier. And being that salt water likes to rust everything, I think the pulleys were pretty rusted and not quite rolling as well they should have. So that made it extra difficult. But luckily enough, I'm a pretty big guy, and I was able to get it up no problem. And where the other guy, he struggled and wasn't able to finish and had to do burpees, and so I was able to jump ahead of him right at the very end for that. And so I was able to pull off the second for the Beast, which I was happy about. And then for the Super the next day, it was basically the same thing happened. Cole wasn't in it, but it was me and the other guy, and basically same kind of thing. He's an excellent trail runner, and he was in first place all the way up until the very end, and he had a pretty good little lead on me, I think. A couple minutes at least. And I came over the cargo net, and I heard the announcer right then saying, oh, like, first place male elite just heading to the burpee pit for the Herc hoist. And so that just fired me up, and so I scurried over the last couple of obstacles, like just charged through, was able to get the Herc hoist up, and take the lead right at the very end, it was really exciting.
It was, because like I said, that's the one I caught. I was in the festival, and we were watching, and we're like, oh, hey, there's Jono, he's in second. And about the time you heard it, we, of course, heard it from the announcer too. He just failed the, he failed the Herc hoist, and he's going to the, he's going to the burpee pit. And then all of a sudden, I swear, you found like a whole new gear, because you would just go on. It was like all of a sudden you heard it. It was just like all of a sudden the turbo kicked in, and you would just go on. and going. And I swear it was like 2 poles. You just whipped that hurt voice up there. Like, holy, I've never seen anyone do it that quick, you know. But I mean, it was a great finish. I mean, I think I have it on my phone somewhere. I videoed it of you coming in. I was like, this is awesome. So I mean, it was so great.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So,
And I mean, that's the great thing about this sport is like, you know, you can still have, there's other little variables that come into play, and you know, you can never give up until you cross that finish line, because something like that can happen at the very end and change the entire ball game. So it's always just kind of in the back of my head, like, okay, you know, keep pushing, like don't back off, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you never do. And it's so cool to watch that. I mean, I've seen it a couple other events, but never one like that. That was just so like, I mean, not to sound, but most of us thought, okay, well, he's going to take second. That's really good. But then all of a sudden, the second he said that, it was just like, even us, we watched you like hit it in the high gear, and we're like, he could do this. He can beat him, you know. So, and we're all running over to the finish line, like, we got to see it. No,
no, it was exciting. Just having you guys there too made it extra special, and just
it was awesome.
The ohana, the excitement, and the energy. Yeah, it was special.
Because we were all just about ready to go out, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, no, Jono's coming in. We got to see this. Yeah, it was awesome. So congrats on that one. That one was awesome. So, and then you went to Greece, and how'd that go? Which I've heard Greece is just amazing. It's a whole different event.
Oh, I mean, just the energy of just the international, all the competitors from all over Europe, and then just being that it's a championship, and just, you know, a little extra pressure on the line, and just the excitement in the air is just one that can't be described unless you got to go. And the being in Sparta too, and just we're right there at the Leonidas statue. They have the parade of nations going through, and so I get goosebumps just kind of thinking about it again, just because it was so cool and special, and just seeing the olive trees all around you, and the ancient ruins that are still there, and you get to pass through those, and then the just gorgeous mountains. So it was really cool.
No, I definitely want to go. I still got to go. I've got to go renew my passport.
Oh, you got to.
Definitely need to.
And then just, I mean, it was really cool, I think, because I've done the championship in Tahoe, past 3 or 4 years it's been there, and it was only, you know, that single, the beast race was the race. So just being with the trifecta, I think it was really much more of a true championship with 3 days of racing. And so, you know, the sprint first day, super second, and then finishing with the beast. I mean, you really had to kind of strategize a little bit more, and kind of then go into that recovery aspect and really make sure the body's good following the first day, second day, so that you can finish with the longest, toughest course the last day. So I mean, it really was, I think, made all the competitors just have to really dial in what they were doing.
And see, I think that would be the hardest part, because I'm so used to you do the beast first, and then it's over with, you're done. It's like, okay, the hardest one's done. And it's so easy to trick your brain into thinking, well, tomorrow's easy. It's just, you know, 2 shorties. When really it's almost the same distance as you did the day before. It's just a little shorter. But, you know, it's just 2 races. So it's quite interesting. So I think it'd be interesting to get that, you know, first day, and then the next day you do a super, and then it's like, okay, now you've done the short ones, and now you've got to do the long race.
Now you got to get out there and really see what your legs are still capable of after already doing, you know. And of course, because it's a championship, and how Spartan does, I mean, it's they claim it's a 5K, but that the sprint ended up being 5 miles the first day, and then the super was 8 miles. And so you've already done, you know, 13 miles there the first couple of days, and then the beast ended up being 16 miles. So you're like, okay, let's throw on a little bit more, just extra pain.
Which doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Spartan. I mean, before they started, it's like I was looking at someone noticed because I still have an old Beast hoodie that I wear all the time. And someone noticed on it, they're like, why does it say 13 plus on the back? I'm like, because that's what it used to be. A Beast was,
Yeah.
it was 13 plus. I'm like, I think the longest one I ever did was the Montana Beast, the very first one Spartan I ever did. I think there's arguments on whether it was 21 or 23 miles
Oh, geez.
on
Yeah.
a Beast because it
On a
was it was a founders race, which I had no idea what that even meant until, and I didn't even realize until like the next year when someone showed me their Beast medal from 2015. I'm like, I don't have that one. The one
Yeah.
I have has little spears coming off of it. And they're like, what? Because it was some random founders race. So they made it like 10 times as hard. And
Oh,
I'm like, that's
yeah.
where I started. So
Yeah.
first words to my wife when I finished the first Beast was, this is stupid and I'm never doing it again.
I'm never doing it again.
This was stupid, and now what, 60 something later that I've done, I think the last time I looked, I'm at like 61 or 2
Nice.
Spartan races. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. That didn't
Yeah.
happen.
And I'm addicted. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, we volunteered the day before, so we had free races. I had to use them.
Yeah. 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 Might as well.
So yeah. So how else was Spartan? I mean, what the Sparta race, I keep hearing, I mean, was there extra obstacles? Was it different? I mean, how did they, I mean, besides just the
Yeah, I mean,
atmosphere of being in Sparta, I mean, that sounds amazing in itself.
they had a few obstacles that I've never done before, and I think that was from talking with people. That's just more the European influence on it. But a couple balancing obstacles, so balance beam that kind of went up, and then there was a plateau. But that was tough. I mean, just muddy, slippery shoes, and trying to get up an incline already. So that one, I wasn't able to do that one, unfortunately. Or just slipped off and not used to doing balancing obstacles. And then another balance was slack line. So again, just slippery, muddy shoes and just getting little wobbles going on. And I'm not a small person, 6'4". I'm like, 190 pounds. So that one was tough. And then they had some chains that were probably about 5 feet long. And then the links were, I don't know, 6-8 inches, and probably 2 inches around, so 150 pounds. And then carrying that probably good almost quarter mile. So it was that for the Beast, we had a log carry to the chains, carry the chains quarter mile, pick up your log again, and then take it back to the original spot where you picked up your log. So it was just, yeah, there's a lot of heavy carries, more so than they still had the standard sandbag and bucket carry. But then throwing in the chains and log carry, and then another just marble cinder block that was supposedly from a column, an old column that they'd taken down. So sharp edges, 40-pound block just sitting on your shoulders. So that made it extra fun as well. So
see, and it always seems like with Spartan, whenever they're like, hey, we're gonna make this a little bit longer, it's always like, hey, let's throw some more heavy lift stuff in there.
Yeah.
Because like the first one I did, there's obstacles that I saw in that one I've never seen again. Like there was a drag where you drug a cinder block. There was actually a team tire flip.
Oh,
nice. It was this huge tire, and it took at least 3 of you to get it. It was just massive.
Yeah.
They had a log carry where you had to carry the log through a swamp, the way you were in water, like up, chest high, carrying the log. Geez. Yeah.
Well, so in Sparta, they had the Atlas carries, typical standard Atlas carry, but it was in the river. So the river was maybe, calf high, at points probably knee high. So you're picking it up already wet, slippery, and then trying to go through a river with stones in it and mud where you can't see underneath where your footing is. So people were tripping, and that throws your balance off, of course, dropping it. And then, so that made it that made it extra fun too.
Sounds like they try to make it, which, I mean, that's one of the things I love. It's kind of one of the things I've talked to people before is, I mean, sometimes I think that's why we sometimes look out at other races because, I mean, we do the same obstacles over and over again and we're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What can I do now? So it's kind of fun to see other ones. Like I did Tough Mudder recently, and I did the Infinite where you just keep doing laps and it was a blast, but I saw a bunch of obstacles I'd never seen before because even ones at Tough Mudder, new ones they'd added for Tough Mudder that I was like, this is fun. I was soaked, I was wet, I was so cold, but I was having so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's and hopefully, that thing that's been one of the big arguments is Spartan needs to, renew some of their obstacles, but at the same time, it's kind of like, what you're getting yourself into, but then they're always going to throw in a different variable, whether it be, in Greece, they had standard bear crawl, but it was again through the river. So your barbed wire crawl going through the river with, the water kind of above your shoulders and rocks. And so it's the same obstacle, but I think they always do well at throwing in some extra pain in there.
They do in a lot of cases. So they got great race directors that, and guys that set those up that do a great job. But I do agree with a lot of people in some ways that they need to update it a little bit, but at the same time, they're also trying to uniform it. So to make it so that's also why we made it. They're supposed to be making it so it's a specific distances and all that. But when you're in Sparta, you got to add extras. You got it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a championship. You gotta make it as difficult as possible.
Okay. So how'd you do on it?
So the first day, I mean, was the sprint, and I was just kind of feeling like, okay, I don't know how. I haven't raced against a lot of the European guys before, so I was just kind of feeling it out and seeing where I was going to stand and thinking, okay, like kind of strategizing, because since it's a cumulative time for the championship over all three distances, like, okay, the sprint's not too big of a deal if I come in, third or something, but I'm only 30 seconds behind, I can make that up. But the body felt great and I was feeling good. And so I charged out and ended up doing really well. I mean, finished first, and with I think I had that first day I only had a 30-second or so lead on a guy from Switzerland. Jean-Luc is his name. And then a third place guy came in, I think another minute and a half or so behind him. So that gave me a nice little kind of buffer, at least on third place going into the super. And then I was thinking the same thing. Okay, like super, I'm just going to see how the body feels. I kind of know at least part of the course now. That's when I first experienced the balance beam was on the super when they added that in. And so unfortunately failed that one, and they had no penalty loop burpee or penalty loop on that one, but it was with the chains. So that made it extra spicy. But with that, I still was able to pull off first place again. So stoked about that. And I think there I was able to get another couple minutes on the guy from Switzerland. And then the third place guy was from Germany. His name is Chris Lemke. Both, like the guy Chris, he was just out here in Hawaii for the Ironman. So just this back a couple weeks ago. So I knew he had the endurance to be able to go and go and go. And found out that he was talking to me later and that he has that endurance, but kind of struggled with some of the strength obstacles. So kind of comes back like you have to be well rounded. And he was like, the Atlas carrier just crushed him. So he fell pretty far behind after that. So going into the beast on the last day, I think I had 2.5 minute lead on second place, Jean-Luc from Switzerland, and then a 3.5 minute lead on Chris from Germany. And so that was a nice little buffer. But I mean, with a beast, it can be, that means nothing 2.5 minutes is nothing. So, I mean, fail one obstacle or anything, and that lead is gone. So I knew I had to at least kind of be right there with them at that point. And was able to, all three of us were going back and forth the entire race. Jean-Luc was passing us in the beginning, and then we were able to, me and Chris from Germany was passing them, and then Chris ended up passing me on the balance beam. Again, he was able to get it, and so I had to do the penalty loop with the chains, and so that set me back a little bit. And I was also thinking that it might have been only 13 or 14 miles. That's what they were saying. It was a 22K. And so by the time we hit 13 miles and I knew I still had 3 miles to go, my body started to kind of feel in it. And I didn't have enough fuel, which is definitely a rookie mistake. I was kind of planning on only 14 miles. And so I had to walk a few sections, and Chris overtook me at that point, and he was in the lead. And then so we were going into the Z wall, and it had been just dumping rain the night before. The course was super muddy and slippery, and so going into Z wall, both he and I failed Z wall, slipped off that. So we were doing burpees in the pit there, and Jean-Luc came through and he got it. So he jumped ahead of both of us at that point. And it was funny. I remember doing burpees, and I saw him just run right in front of me and kind of look over and give me the little smirk, like, yeah, who's in first now, kind of thing. And it was just a fun little kind of competitive smile. But I was able to get out of the burpee pit before Chris, and the last kind of gauntlet, they go through the streets of Spartan. So you're going down one end of the street, you got rope climb and monkey bars, and then you come back up the same street so you can pass by people. So as I was going down, Jean-Luc was already coming back up, so I was 30 or so seconds behind him. Was able to get through that pretty quick, and me and him both entered the last multi-rig, the last obstacle before the fire jump. Both entered right at the same time, and my grip was already just trashed, and they had extended the multi-rig basically double what it was the 2 previous days. So both he and I failed the last multi-rig and straight to the burpee pit. And luckily enough, I had a crew of people cheering me on, and I was able to knock out the burpees quicker than he was and get across right at the same. So it was kind of that same thing, just that last minute push, like it's first or second place podium spot right there, like how far can you push yourself. And so I was able to get across before him and finish first place. But turns out that because our age group is so large, they had split us up into 2 separate heats. And so I thought I'd finished in first, but there was another American, Demir, who he comes out and races in Hawaii all the time. He's usually does a lot of the ultras. So he had actually just crushed the beast course. I mean, being an ultra runner, he was like 16 miles is nothing. So he was just kind of warming up, and so he ended up beating me by 7 minutes for that last beast course. Wow. So just crushed it. But luckily enough, I had done well on the first 2 days and had I think a 9 or so minute lead on him going into the beast. And so he was in, I think, 6th place or so going into the beast, but jumped up to 3rd place with that finish in the beast, and was able to basically kind of knock off Chris from the podium and take the 3rd place spot, which was huge.
Wow.
Yeah. So
but you held first.
I held first. for the championship. Yeah. So this would be the third championship I've won now.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a exciting weekend.
Sounds like it. I mean, that sounds like it's one of those ones. I've never been that competitive enough in it to be up at that level. I want to get there eventually, like in my age group or whatever, to get up to that level. But my problem is I think I'm in your age group, so I'm screwed. But yeah, no, I'm either in your age group or the one right above you. So I was trying to think, how old are you?
41.
Okay, yeah, so I'm right above you. So I'm in the 45.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
No, which this is my first year in the 45-year-old because I'm actually not 45 yet, but I will be in like 3 weeks.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So I'm 45 because I go by your age at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. I'm always like 1 year older than I really am on race because my birthday is in December, but they go by your end of the year birthday.
Yeah.
What age you will be. So yeah.
Well, yeah, you gotta start taking out those 45-year-olds now. Yeah.
I gotta push. Like I said, next year my big push is gonna be, like I said, I'm working on strength and a lot of that other stuff because I really want to crush the Ironman next year. It's not one of those ones I don't want to just finish it. I want to crush it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my big push. So, and I haven't decided if I want to. I might go like a month earlier or 2 months earlier and do another one. Do one in Oregon rather than the Seattle one, because just to kind of destroy the mental block that I probably have right now.
Yeah.
I've DNF'd 3 triathlons so far, and all of them have been in the same lake.
Yeah, geez. Yeah.
So, and they've all been for different reasons, but they've all been in the same lake. So it's kind of in the same lake. So I'm like, I feel like it's the lake I grew up swimming in. So I'm like, I feel like it's a cursed lake for me at this point. So I feel like
a lot of it. I'm gonna be putting out a master class here soon. I just got done filming it a few weeks ago, but it's all about like breathing mechanics and how to do better breathing for performance. But one of the kind of modules is mental toughness and how to kind of get over those obstacles that are in your head and just getting past those things, that negative self-talk that a lot of people have, and that image that you think you can't do it, and it might just be because of one little thing, but it's just, okay, like, how do I get past that? What do I got to do? And just get out and getting it done.
And like I said, that's kind of why I thought maybe just to get the Ironman, like get that monkey off my back and say, I earned the Ironman. Now it's just another Ironman.
Yeah.
When I go do the one in Seattle again, it's just another Ironman. It's not,
Yeah.
And I think I've got that mental, and I mean, each one has been like, the first one that I DNF'd was because I had the wrong bike and I didn't train. I mean, it was one of those, I decided that first Ironman that I did, I had 2 months of training. I tried a triathlon, did a swim, and said, I can do an Ironman. Why not? And then basically said, hey, who wants to teach me how to swim?
Yeah.
So, so I mean, it was not good in all aspects. And that was my own fault. The second one, I actually had someone swim over me.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
So, and when they did, and pushing me underwater,
and punched and
destroyed my breathing. And I was never able, like when I came out of the water, they wanted to call an ambulance because I was breathing so bad. And I'm looking at my wife, like, give me my inhaler. And she's like, you've never looked at me like that and asked for an inhaler. She's like, I was scared, but she handed me the inhaler and she expected me to be like, okay, I'm done. And I'm like, no, I grabbed the inhaler, ran to the bike and started let's go. But because of the breathing, I was so far behind, I just couldn't catch up. And then, this last one I wrecked. So it's always been something different. So, but I figure if I get that training down to enough, that wreck, I would have been able to get past that wreck with it if I had the training right.
Well, a lot of it too, I mean, it's just experience and kind of knowing what can happen. And the more and more times you do these races, the more experience you build. And I talk about, like, you're always just your adaptation is at a certain level, and by doing a race and getting that experience, that level moves up a little bit. And so each time you're out there, you're like, okay, well, this happened last time, I know what to do in this point now. And so it's just getting better and better. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm working with the Ironman. Like, this will be, when I go to do it again, this will be my 3rd attempt at an Ironman, but I've done multiple Olympic distance triathlons. I've done multiple sprints. and built up that knowledge of, okay, this is what I know what to do. You know, if this happens with the bike, I have all this stuff to change the tire in the back now, but I made sure it was minimal, because
Yeah.
I think my biggest problem was I was so worried about things happening wrong with the bike. I probably had like a pack with like 20 pounds in it of crap the first
Yeah.
time I did the Ironman, so I could fix it if the bike broke, because I was so freaked about it. Now it's like it all fits in a little like 2 pound thing, because I'm like, that 20 pounds probably, you know, just was killing my back by the time
Oh
my
yeah.
54-mile
Yeah.
bike ride. I'm like, no. So, you know,
Yeah.
and just getting used to what kind of things, like if this happens, how much of this stuff do I really need?
Yeah.
Or can I get a
Exactly.
kit that's small enough that I can fix all this if I need to, you know? So yeah, I can fix most things. That's one thing I was happy about. I was able to fix, because when I wrecked, I bent the seat. I had to redo the seat. But what I missed was the back brake.
Yeah.
The back brake was rubbing, and I didn't realize it
Yeah.
till after the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's just dialing all that stuff in. I mean, when
mhm.
I first started racing, I can look back and see pictures of when, I would carry a full hydration vest with, all the everything in the back, and then I just started kind of experimenting and watching some of the other elites, and like, okay, no, I need to carry as little as possible, and really just narrow it down to the necessities. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, now I just have a little hydration waist pack, and that's it, just to help keep you as slim and maneuver, like, moving as best as most efficient as possible.
Yeah,
So
and you learn that as you do more, just how much
yeah.
you need. Like, you
Yep.
know, I have a bigger pack than I probably need for the Spartans, but I don't fill it anymore. But
Yeah.
it's the pack I'm used to carrying, but I have a lot less in it before, where it was like jam packed. Now there's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
3 or 4 things in it, and I could probably go with a pack that's like a quarter the size, but you know,
No. Yeah.
but then when I,
Stick
yeah,
with what you're comfortable with also. Yeah.
yeah. And then when I've done other races, like the first time I did one of the marathons I've done in Seattle a couple times, which is this great downhill one, I carried a pack, had all this stuff, but there was every 3 miles they had a water station.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when I went go back and do it
So
the next time, I'm like, I had a little fanny pack with like some protein pucks in it so I could eat and
yeah,
have nutrition along the way. But I'm like, I didn't bring any water
I don't
because
need
I
to carry
knew,
the water. Yeah.
yeah. So I knew
Yeah.
I didn't need to carry it. So it's just like you learn, you know, and
Yep.
you especially doing it a couple times. So I know what's going to be on the Ironman next time. I know what I need.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I know what I need to put into. Like I got a little, you know, thing they call it the, you know, I can't remember. It's basically the dash, whatever. It's a little glove box that sits on the top bar.
Oh,
And
perfect.
that's where I'll put a couple snacks, and I'll put a couple pickle juices and some other stuff to help me with the cramping. And other than that, I have my water in the, you know, 2 little things. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
throw like one of my small hydro packs that I can grab when I, you know, finish the bike. When I go to run, I can just grab that small hydro
Just
pack and
grab
go,
and go. Yep. Yep.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with the Spartan race. I tell people, it's just like, get out on the trails, like, try different things, try everything. And so you can kind of dial that in, not
Yeah.
just show up on race day and like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna throw it all on and just see what happens. But you know, you got
You
to
know,
just get out there and
you do.
test it out.
And when you're training, you got to test it out too. I have
Yeah.
people all the time like, race days this weekend. What should I bring for nutrition? Nothing you've never eaten before. Make sure you've eaten it before. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because I've done that where I'm like, oh, let's try this new thing, and then halfway through the race, I'm like, oh, please tell them the porta potties are open.
I gotta find a bush.
Yeah, I gotta find a
Real
bush and a
quick.
big leaf because this is going to be bad. Whatever they gave me, this did not go well. Because I've done
Well,
that already.
in Hawaii there's cow pies everywhere.
Yeah, so
So
no
they
one
no,
knows.
you wouldn't know the difference. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just I've had a couple of those where it's just like all of a sudden your stomach's just like, oh yeah, and so it's like anything. If I've never eaten it before while I'm running, I'm not trying it on race day.
Yeah, no,
You
definitely
know,
not. Yeah.
no.
No, man, I have no doubts that you'll be out there and you're gonna crush it at the next one. So,
No, it's gonna be fun.
I know you now, like, and been great just kind of seeing you progress over the years, and so I've no doubt you'll be awesome.
No, it's gonna be good.
So
It's gonna be good. It's gonna, like I said, I've got a little bit. I needed the break just to let my body go, and it drives me
yeah,
nuts because I'm seeing every pound that my body's put on while I'm doing this, and I'm just like, it'll be fine because it's just, I need this time to let my knees heal, my body heal. I'm not as young as I used to be. And then, everything, I'm already working on it, going back to the diet, working on the diet. Cause after all the trips to Hawaii and Texas and everything else, my diet went to horrible. So I've got the diet back under control. Now it's to, get the running under control. I think I'm going to start it on, really start pushing again on December 3rd. I'm doing the Pretty Mike challenge again. So
nice.
Which is one that we started last year, which is just stupid, but you start with 100 pounds of weight and you run, and every quarter mile you drop 10 pounds.
Okay.
Until it's gone. That. And then you finish with, I think it's the last half mile, because you run a full 5K. The last half mile you're running with nothing.
What are you using as are like 10-pound weights, or?
Usually what I have, because I have the vest and I have a sandbag.
Okay.
So I'll take the sandbag, and instead of, because I have two different vests, and I'll take one of the vests that holds 40 pounds and has like 10-pound weights that I can pull out of it.
You can just pull out.
Yeah. And then they'll fill the vest with, or the sandbag with the other weights that I can just pull 10 pounds at a time. Or sometimes it's like, because last time I did it, I used my Rock 2, which had a 20-pound plate in it. I just didn't pull 10 pounds out the last time, and just did an extra 10 for the last quarter mile. I'm like, whatever, I just had 20 pounds for half a mile, and then took it off and ran the last.
Oh, dude, I like that. I may have to join you. I may have December 3rd.
December 3rd. A couple of us are gonna do it up here, and then I think I posted it. I'll send you the link on it or whatever. It's not, there's no medal, no nothing. We're just doing it for fun. It's a fun challenge.
That sounds like fun. Yeah. Count me in.
Because my birthday is December 2nd, so the next day we're gonna do it for my birthday. So because that's what I do for my birthday now. Apparently, run and do really weird challenges. So
yeah.
Right on. All right.
That'd be good.
Well, we were hitting about the hour mark where Dawn starts yelling at me if I go past that. So, anything you want to say to the listeners before we go, or?
No, yeah. Thank you for having me on, and like I said, I'm going to be putting out a little masterclass here soon, and so that'll be on my website, Mauka Makai Fitness, where it's we cover all about breathing mechanics and breathing for better performance and better sleep and anxiety, and then mental toughness, and how to kind of build your pain tolerance. And so it'll be a good little course. And then I also offer any sort of training for any Spartan racers out there that need a little extra advice and tips. So reach on out anytime.
Right on. Send me the links to those. I'll put them on when we share the episode, so people can get and find you. So
beautiful. Sounds good.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you.
And always good to talk to you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.